I, 26 female, recently moved into my first home. I'm also 4 months pregnant with our first baby. The pregnancy has been very hard. I have horrible morning sickness. It reached a really bad point where I passed out and hit my head, and my doctor admitted me to the hospital for a week. When I got home from hospital, I found out my husband had allowed his brother's family to move into 2 of our 3 bedrooms. They were evicted, and I don't know why. One room that was my office was tossed into our room, and my papers were everywhere. The house was a complete wreck. Trash, dirty clothes, used diapers. I started to cry. It was like a light flipped. My husband was no longer the same. My husband told me it wasn't that bad. My reply was, fine, then you should have the house cleaned up before I wake up. Completely exhausted, I fell asleep for 4 hours. I woke up and went to get a drink of water. I couldn't do it because every glass we owned was scattered around the house. They didn't clean a single thing. I passive-aggressively started to pick up the dirty dishes and wash them. The following morning I was trying my best to work when their kids were crying non-stop, banging on the walls and so on. Their mom was in her room for hours, ignoring them. When my husband came home, he was upset with me over how I didn't make his brother's wife feel welcome in our home by helping with their kids when she was tired. Then continued to complain how nothing was done while he was at work all day in the house. Yep, the same one he didn't clean. That led to a fight where I told him I am too sick to have company and they need to leave, to which he replied they were his family and that he won't kick them out. I started to cry again. I was beyond frustrated and exhausted. I physically couldn't do it anymore. I called my mom asking if I could come to stay with her. I told her the whole story in front of my husband, who at this point was completely shocked and angry. Also, I could tell he wasn't sure what to do. My mom came with my brothers. I have 3 older brothers. My mom was super angry and told my husband, since your family can stay, so can we. My mom quickly took charge. I was sent to bed. My brothers started cleaning, complaining loudly at how disgusting my brother-in-law's family was, along with what a horrible husband my husband is for putting me through this while I'm sick. I got a text message from my mother-in-law calling me an idiot for not helping my husband clean up the house and putting my brother-in-law in an uncomfortable position by having my mom boss him around. My husband is currently staying in a hotel because I needed space. Wait, your mother-in-law called to fuss at you for involving your mother? There's this pot kettle thing. Not the idiot 1000%, but house guests in a shared home require 2 yeses and only 1 no. Both of you agree or it shouldn't happen. Your husband has treated you abominably. I'm not sure I could deal with that, honestly. Can you go stay with your mom? You can't stay alone due to your sickness. Your mom is the mom of the year, so are your brothers. This will not get better, OP, if you don't set some major boundaries. Again, that he did this while you were in the hospital suggests he knew you disagreed and wanted to present it as a done deed you couldn't or wouldn't argue with. Go stay with Mom and let him enjoy lying in the filthy bed he's made. I'd tell him that you're not coming back until they're gone and your house is as clean as when you left it. If you won't or can't, then you know where his priorities are. Darling, you're pregnant. The house you describe is unfit to bring a newborn into. Depending on how bad and what country you live in, Child Protective Services could step in. Is your marriage worth potentially losing custody of your baby over? Because I can tell you right now that it shouldn't be. That baby has to be your number 1 priority, and living in a house full of dirty dishes and mouldy food ain't it, sis. My heart hurts for you, but you deserve so much better. I mean this in the nicest way possible. Please start prepping for divorce. Your husband moved people into the home without consulting you first. He's prioritizing their needs over the needs of his wife and unborn child. I know this may be hard to hear, but since you're now pregnant with his child and tied to him forever, this is where many abusers show their true colors. It's time for you to start thinking about exit strategies. In fact, I think you're underreacting, which is understandable considering your current health. My wife, 30, and I, 31 male, have been married for about 7 years now. I decided to go on a last-minute work trip which caused me to book flights, hotel, etc. late at night and then fly out the next day. I needed new work slacks for the trip since I've primarily been working from home in my current company, so we had to make a late-night run to the local Walmart to get a few pairs. We also got some button-up shirts. When we got home, I had some stuff to finish up with the planning, so I asked my wife to wash my new clothes so that my shirts weren't so wrinkly. I handed her the shirts to wash separately and put the pants in the dirty laundry. While they washed, she packed my suitcase and then added the shirts when they were done. When it came time to leave, I verified everything was packed by asking her if she packed my pants. She said yes. Cue too late the next night when I arrive at my hotel and my slacks aren't in there. Only my brown khakis and grey khakis. I call her pretty upset, asking where my slacks were. She got defensive and told me she thought she packed all my clothes. I'd laid them out on the bed beside the stuff to be washed and told me they should be in there. I made her check the laundry room to be sure, and she looked around the whole house before finding them in our bedroom laundry basket, unwashed. I repeated a few times how I was frustrated that she hadn't packed them but had told me that she did. She said she didn't realise by pants I meant my slacks and that she was busy trying to do other stuff and just remembered packing some pants with all the other things I'd laid out. She also said it was unreasonable for me to be upset with her when they were my pants, and she didn't think she was expected to do a whole second load of laundry at midnight. In the end, she attempted to make me feel better by saying that it would be okay and my work would understand that sometimes things get a bit hectic with packing and travelling last minute, and I can buy more in the evening hopefully. I feel bad because I could tell she was frustrated with me for blaming her, but in my defence, I did ask her if she packed everything. Am I the idiot because my wife forgot to pack my slacks for a work trip and I was frustrated with her over the phone, so we argued? You are the idiot. You're a grown adult and should be doing your own packing and laundry. You are responsible for checking that all the items are in the suitcase before leaving. I'm also not sure why you put the clothes in a dirty garment hamper, as the only reason they would have been discovered is if your wife decided in the middle of the chaos of your departure to put a load of laundry on. What are you, a little kid? We had to go to Walmart. Why didn't you go to Walmart? Why didn't you buy some shirts? Why didn't you wash your shirts? Why didn't you pack your suitcase? Since it's your work trip, did you have time to lay it out for her to pack but not pack it yourself? You can blame your wife all you want. You are a major idiot any day of the week. I kept misreading wife as mum, probably because he sounds like a little kid. My friend, you're 31 years old and a fully grown adult. Guess what? You're old enough and hopefully capable of packing your own stuff on your own, including your beloved slacks. Your reaction should serve her as a warning. Not gonna lie, I imagine him going through security and them asking if he packed his suitcase himself. No, my wife did. Cue them opening up and the first thing they see are some divorce papers. You, sir, are an idiot. Your wife is not a mind reader. My 33 female sister, Marnie, 35, has a toddler daughter, Annabelle. I love my niece very, very much, but Marnie sets no boundaries for her. Everything Annabelle does is age appropriate, but as a parent, it's your job to help your child become the best person they can be. When Annabelle doesn't want to do something or needs to get her way, she screams. It's very, very loud and hard to ignore. Marnie and her husband instantly give in. As a mom of 4, I completely understand it's hard to hear your child cry or be upset. And sometimes, yes, absolutely pick your battles. But in others, the toddlers can't win. Around the holidays, Marnie and I often hung out with the kids. At one point, we were headed to an aquarium. Marnie started going one way and Annabelle started screaming. Marnie turns around and heads in a direction that'll add 15 minutes to our route. When I asked why, she said Annabelle likes passing a certain landmark on her way. However, Annabelle then started screaming she didn't want to see it, and halfway there we turned around. It added more time and my kids were annoyed. I let most of this go as Annabelle isn't my child, it isn't my vehicle or house where these predicaments occur. But then Marnie broke her leg while her husband was out of town. She needed help getting around and tending to Annabelle, so I agree they should stay with us. Last night we picked up our kids from school, stopping at Annabelle's preschool last. Once we finally got her in the car, she didn't want to leave, and Marnie let her just run around for 10 minutes and wouldn't let me grab her because she's the boss of her body. I'm exhausted. I still have to get home and cook. As I'm heading in one direction, Annabelle starts screaming for me to go in the other. I calmly explain that way is longer and we don't have the time. Marnie asked me to just make it easier, she doesn't want to hear her scream. Going that way will add more time to our drive. I say no again and keep driving, putting on some kid-friendly music. My kids are trying to distract Annabelle. Marnie starts crying, saying things like, "It's okay baby, we'll be home soon. Oh, I know you're so sad, this isn't very nice." The thing is, Annabelle stopped screaming. Keep in mind she never shed a tear, just screamed, after 5 minutes when she realised she wasn't getting her way. Marnie later told me that I was horrible for forcing her to listen to her daughter scream. Would it have been so hard not to add stress to her? My husband agrees that I did the right thing, but also pointed out that Marnie and Annabelle are going through a stressful time. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. That poor kid apparently won't be learning appropriate behaviour anytime soon, especially since anyone who teaches it to her will be berated for making her scream. Annabelle needs to be taught good behaviour immediately, and Marnie is doing a massive disservice to her child by refusing to parent her. It's clear your sister is a huge problem here. She established early on that Annabelle is in charge, and she's content to take the path of least resistance. The problem is children need rules, and to avoid having to parent, your sister is setting her daughter up for future failure. But you can't change how your sister parents her child. You can only distance yourself from the spoiled brat she's raising. You can only distance yourself. Holy moly, I don't think it's that simple. Your sister and her husband are huge idiots. The level of entitlement your sister has as you're caring for her kid and her. Screw that noise, pun intended. I'd let her navigate the broken leg and screaming toddler alone. You have 4 kids of your own. That's harder than dealing with 1 kid and a broken leg. I, 45 female, have 3 children. My eldest, Gia, is 28 years old. About 5 years ago, she moved about 90 minutes away to live with her boyfriend, Marco. They've since had 2 girls that are a preschooler and a toddler. My younger daughter, Alexis, nearly adult, is mentally and physically disabled. While she's somewhat independent, she'll never live alone and requires much care. When my oldest granddaughter was born, Gia kept hinting that I should come to visit and help her. I did come down a couple of times, but Alexis's health was pretty poor at that point, so that had to be my focus. Eventually, Gia confided in me that Marco didn't help with the baby. I sympathized. As time went on, things didn't get better. I was surprised when Gia told me she was trying to conceive number 2. I asked if Marco was doing better, and she said no, but he really wanted to try for a boy. It's her life and her business, so I let it go. Sure enough, nothing changed when my youngest granddaughter was born. Around this time, my cousin passed. I was left as the guardian of her toddler daughter, Evelyn. Juggling Evelyn and Alexis is no easy task, and I'm also doing it alone. I have never asked my older kids for help and never would. This past year, Gia kept hinting that I should come down more. I have a couple of times, but usually say it would be easier for her to come to me. Recently, Gia blew up at me, saying she has no help, and as her mother, I should. I said I was a little busy myself with 1 special needs child and a toddler who went through trauma. I'm always there emotionally, but I can't physically. She said that Marco was no help, and I said she knew what she was getting into this time around. It's not up to everyone else to support her. She got mad and told me I was insensitive. I was talking to my sister and she said I'd gone too far. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She should redirect her anger towards her husband instead of you. Managing a toddler that just lost her mom and a teen with disabilities all on your own is amazing in itself. Hang in there. Don't feel like you need to be doing more. Geez, seriously. OP has at least as much on her plate as her daughter does, if not more. What in the world does she want from her? What's OP supposed to do with her responsibilities while she takes off to help her daughter? And if OP brings both children with her to her daughters, I don't see how that would be very helpful to her daughter. It would create a house full of chaos. She had a second child with a man she knew wasn't helpful, or frankly a decent father. I can't for the life of me wrap my brain around why she'd do that. But seriously, if he already didn't do squat with the first kid, why would she agree to a second? I know divorce and single parenthood suck, but if you're doing it all alone anyway, why not get rid of the dead weight, instead of keeping him and adding a second kid to a crappy situation? Yep, Gia is a big girl who found out her partner was useless with the first child, then chose to have a second. You have a full plate. Her mess, and she needs to deal with it. She needs to give the lover boy a wake-up call, as in, man up, daddy. My brother-in-law was driving us home and my hands were starting to shake because I hadn't eaten, so I was going to eat one of the pastries I'd bought, but he said I couldn't eat in his car. He was acting like his precious car would combust if it got crumbs in it, so I asked him to pull over because I needed to eat something. I decided to walk home while eating my pastry because I was annoyed at him. He kept asking me to get back in the car and claimed my husband would give him a hard time if he let me walk home, but I told him I didn't care and I walked the entire way. So now my husband is mad at his brother, and my brother-in-law is blaming me because I refused to get back in the car. They had a huge argument when my husband first found out, and my husband also privately told me I should have just let his brother drive me home instead of being stubborn and walking. Every time we argue about it, my brother-in-law asked me if I'm going to start sulking again, which is really getting on my nerves. Am I the idiot? So I asked him to pull over because I needed to eat something. He complied and pulled over so you could eat. Then you acted like a toddler because he did exactly as you asked. You are the idiot, OP. Grow up. You literally had to eat a pastry that second. Why are we assuming you have diabetes? You were so desperate for energy, literally shaking, yet you were able to walk home to prove a point. If it wasn't that far of a walk, it would have been an even shorter drive. Surely you could have waited to stuff your face. I think you're a control freak. If his bringing up how you act gets on your nerves, then maybe don't act that way and learn to be patient. Take better care of yourself so you're not about to faint while sitting in someone else's car because you haven't eaten food all day. He doesn't want crumbs in his car. You should have offered to pay the cleaning if you made a mess. Considering how shaky you were, crumbs were likely. All in all, a huge idiot now for intentionally making two brothers mad at each other. You owe them both an apology.